with Educational Metamorphoses. It's good. Good stuff, coffee. So it's called Coming of Age, Educational Transformation, and Professional Self-Reinvention. And one of the things over the years I've tried to deal with is the idea that the student must grow not only in terms of their knowledge, the content of their major, biology or chemistry, or both biology, chemistry, sociology, English, or whatever, but that as they mature and come of age while they're here at the university, that the process in which we have them is truly transformative. The philosopher Roland Martin describes educational metamorphosis as a whole person change. So what we offer students at the university, and what's often is not stated, is the opportunity to become, by the time they complete this process, a whole new person, right? And that's necessary when a young person comes to us as a high school student, and even though they may be very mature and very bright and very responsible, I don't think anyone would want a high school senior for a physician, or the person would remain the same person they are when they came to us to be their physician. And so I hope that this video, my hopes for this video and assigning this task of making a video on educational transformation and professional self-reinvention is for students to develop an intentionality and a lens towards forming who they are becoming and who they want to become as a future healthcare provider. And so thinking about the kinds of activities and just their own identity and reflecting deeply upon that, and then being intentional in engaging in a way that they're recreating themselves in an image that they think will be a wonderful dentist, doctor, whatever.
Ovid's story about Pygmalion, the sculptor of Galatea, draws a lot of parallels between the concept of educational metamorphosis. Some of the parallels it grows is about holistic change that can be irreversible and a long-sustained process of this change. In the story, Pygmalion sculpts Galatea from a block of ivory into a flawless statue. He does this in response to the flawed way he sees the world and the people of it. He falls passionately in love with his creation, and after seeing this love, Aphrodite brings the statue to life. The two are married and live together for many years. This growth, this change scene in this story is reflected in educational metamorphosis because it involves a holistic change that can't always be reversed. So it's something that you may have to live with for better or for worse once your perspective has changed in that way. The difference between the story and the growth or the metamorphosis of education is that it's not an instant thing. As Rousseau said, plants are shaped by cultivation and men by education. This cultivation takes years of hard work and many hours of practice and achievement to accomplish well and do a process.
So in Roland's text, she also focuses on the life of Malcolm X and how his life story serves as a prime example of how educational metamorphosis occurs several times in a lifetime and does not always lead to forward progress. Roland also uses Malcolm's story because it challenges two assumptions, and those assumptions Roland states are as that education is reducible to schooling and that education necessarily represents improvement. Malcolm X, as a middle schooler, he was a class president, but in high school he moved to the streets of Harlem, and that's where he was taught that it was not realistic for Negroes to become lawyers or basically just follow his dreams, and that it was rather better for him to be realistic and for him to become a hustler or a carpenter because he was told that Negroes are better at working with their hands. And due to this miseducation, he turned from a model schoolboy to a hustler on the streets. And from the story, we learn that through a lifetime of educational metamorphosis, people can have forward and backward progress, meaning that they may become change for the better or for the worse. And also, misinformation from an institution or even from society can lead to a negative form of educational metamorphosis. And another way that people learn and grow is through life experiences. From the classroom, you can gain factual knowledge, but as Roland states, the hidden curriculum of life experiences gives students a genuine education. And this is apparent in students who treat the professional school applications as a checklist rather than focusing on using their real-world experience to develop themselves as a person.
Roland also brings up the story of Mark Mathabane and how he went from being some kid in South Africa to being a young man educated in the English-speaking tradition. And in his story, being in that environment of academic setting that was made by white men for white men, he was constantly teased and criticized for where he was from. Even though his grades were some of the best among his class, teachers would still criticize and beat him. So this point is really important, especially to me as a student planning on going into healthcare, that I will be living in a clinical and professional culture, and I'll have to learn how to live in that particular environment.
Pre-health students are told that they need to embody the professionalism of their desired occupation, but they aren't necessarily told how to make the transition from student to professional. However, it's not enough to act professional in a specific setting. You have to embody professional behavior to the point where you have transformed into a professional. A study from Göteborg University and the Department of Nursing performed a study to understand the concept of professional identity in nursing. In general, there's a difference between being a professional and acting like a professional. Professional behavior is a quality that matures over time and especially with practice. Developing the skill of professional behavior takes time, reflective analysis, and moral maturity. To develop and maintain the professional identity, professionals have to work on balancing external and internal traits. For a pre-health student, shadowing can provide a structure to work on professional behavior. Internal traits could be developed by recognizing how the physician manages his or her time outside of the meeting with the patient. External traits would include the patient-doctor interactions. Through analyzing others and oneself, and through dedicated practice, the professionals will gain confidence and be more genuine about their abilities. As the health industry changes, people have to learn to change with it. Committing to the self-reinvention that goes into becoming a professional is a lifestyle required of every healthcare professional.
Metamorphosis occasioned by the different events in the life cycle of an individual. Coming of age stories are a lot. We've read a lot of different accounts of people and the hardships they went through and the struggles they had to deal with. But one thing that is certain about the troubles or the difficulties people go through is that they always end up being happy, or they always end up with a victory or a good ending to their stories. In Roland's Educational Metamorphoses, she mentioned that the renowned African-American writer Alice Walker went through a personal transformation in the 1960s, and that was around the same time that the civil rights movement began. So Alice Walker's transformation started when her mom bought a new TV set, and on the same day that the TV was bought, she saw Martin Luther King on the screens for the first time. Before that event, she didn't have any dreams, she didn't have any hope of ever becoming someone better than her mom, who cleans other people's homes for a living. So being able to see MLK on TV gave her a different perspective of life and gave her the hope to struggle for a life that is better than the barest minimum. Roland stated that education is not in fact transformation, it is not subtraction, education is addition. As such, education sets up a dialogue among past, present, and possible selves. This implies that in every single stage of our lives, there would always be events and there will always be different situations that would add up to our experience as an individual. And these different events that we come across, or these different experiences, shape our identity as people. And as pre-med students, we'll definitely come across various circumstances that would mold us into the people that we hope to become in the future.